There is a extraordinary depth to life and being human that in a playfully tragic way goes untouched by many, many, many human beings, where we maybe have very brief encounters with something called the sacred in our lives, and it doesn't really have the opportunity to take root and completely alter the way we live. And not the way we live in the context of doing what you're supposed to do, but in the context of some sort of foundational understanding that this whole life and being human thing is about love. And it's seen so deeply that you can never get away from it. Sure, you have moments of forgetting, but it's not far behind. We find our way back quite frequently. And this is because we've been touched by this sacred something. And I guess before we get too far into it, let's speak to the nature of the sacred. To ask the question, what is sacred? And in the most direct and playful way, I will say everything that is real is sacred. And maybe the mind hears that and then thinks, well, then that means the sacred isn't very special. And then I propose, maybe you haven't seen what's real. I guess a great starting point is looking at the failure in talking about the sacred, because the word itself, like every other word, is a pointer. It points to something that cannot be described with words. I mean, you can attempt, but it fails every time. Just like in the example of taking a photograph of the sunset, it doesn't matter what kind of camera you use, how many photos you take, your photograph pales in comparison to the reality of the sunset. It's not even close. The photograph is a pointer, and the word sacred is a pointer. The point is not the concept called sacred, the idea. The point is not the word. The word is pointing to something that will be seen by a few, which is kind of funny because 100 people will hear someone talk about the sacred, and 100 people will say, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And 3 people will say, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I love all of the images that might arise as we explore this ancient concept. And it inspires lots of images of deep reverence for life. It inspires a deep devotion where one is willing to give up everything just for a taste of the sacred. I love the statement that I mentioned that the answer to what is sacred is everything that's real.